Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. My editorial today is about three speeches. Three speeches that happened on Dussehra. Speech number 1, Dr Mohan Bhagwat. Speech number 2, Uddhav Thackeray. Speech number 3, Eknath Shinde. Three speeches. Let's understand what they were trying to achieve out of these speeches and what they spoke. Let's get right into the show. So like I said, I speak about three speeches that happened yesterday. Let's first talk about Dr Mohan Bhagwat, the Sarasanga Chalak of RSS, the head of RSS, what he spoke. Okay, let's talk about 5 important things that he spoke. The first thing that he spoke was about hindurashtra. Now, what he said in his speech is that RSS stands for hindurashtra and organizes Hindu society to protect dharma, sanskriti and samaj without opposing anybody. That also he made it very clear. He said that it's because of Sangh's activities that the concept of hindurashtra is being taken seriously in India. He said scaremongering is done among so-called minorities that there is a danger to them because of us or organized Hindus. This has not happened in the past, nor will it happen in the future. This is neither the nature of Sangh nor of the Hindu history bears this out. So this is what Bhagwat said. Bhagwat said that, listen, you know what, organized, just because we are organizing Hindus, the minorities are getting scared and they need not get scared because Hindus are not about, causing any harm to the minorities. Now, I have a question to this. The question that I ask is, what exactly is hindurashtra? What exactly would hindurashtra mean? One of the reasons why minorities are getting scared and minorities are not really comfortable and a lot of people are asking is, one doesn't know what hindurashtra means. You see, I'll tell you what point I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to make here is when you are a capitalist country, you know that is an economic situation and you know what a capitalist country will do. They will give more liberty for entrepreneurs and businessmen to make more money, for the society to earn more money. Their focus will be to earn more money for the society and for individuals. Capitalist society. When you say communist society, that also is an economic situation where you know that what is that situation going to be and what will the country be doing. When you say socialist society, you know what that socialist society is. When you call it an Islamic state, you know what an Islamic state is, what an Islamic country is and what they stand for. They will say that you have to go by the Sharia. You have to follow Islamic rule. Other religion cannot come and practice their religion here freely. That is what they are going to tell you. That is Islamic state. When somebody says, I am a Christian state, that too is saying that, listen, we are a Catholic state and therefore XYZ rules are followed. Pray tell me, what does hindurashtra mean? That is what I think Rashtra Swayam Sevak Sangh and others who preach and want hindurashtra has to put forward to. What does hindurashtra entail? Does hindurashtra say that we are going to follow the Vedic policies and Vedic rules? Does hindurashtra say that this will be the way we will be living? Does hindurashtra say that this will be the clothes that we will be wearing? Does hindurashtra say that this will be how men will operate, women will operate? Will hindurashtra say that therefore other communities cannot openly profess their religion in the country? Does hindurashtra say that, therefore the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister or the President will only be Hindu? Will that be the case? It may not. This may not be correct what I say. But one doesn't know. Hindurashtra, like an Islamic Rashtra or like a communist, should have a manifesto and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 things will happen if India becomes Hindurashtra, which is not very clear. At least not clear to me. If anybody of the viewers, if one of you all are clear, please write down and say what hindurashtra entails. So the fact remains that you saying a lot of people are scaremongering, a lot of people are unaware of what hindurashtra is, a lot of people get scared when we say hindurashtra, and Hindu is the way of life. All this sounds right. But when you say Hindurashtra, it just can't be. Tomorrow morning we'll say it is Hindurashtra. So everything okay, everything fine, everything goes back to normal. Everything goes back to square one. Does it happen that way? No, obviously. Something is going to change. The constitution could change. Is it going to change? Is Indian Penal Code going to change? So what exactly are the changes of Hindurashtra? That is something that I will be looking forward to hear from people who preach Hindurashtra, especially RSS. Because they, like themselves says, they are the people who propagate Hindurashtra the most. So let us know what Hindurashtra is. So that's the point number one. Now, point number two is he spoke about Muslim population. He said that thinking about population, how many people can our country feed after 50 years? That is the first thing he spoke about. Secondly, he said when population stops increasing, society disappears, languages disappear, he said. He also said that there is a balance that is needed in population. He says birth rate is only one part of this imbalance, but conversion by force and allurement is the biggest factor. Infiltration from across the border is also responsible. What he is talking about is, I presume, is the imbalance between the Hindu-Muslim growth rate. He says, you see, the fact is, imbalance is happening because of, not just because of birth rate, it is also happening because of conversions, forced conversions. Allurement, I presume, would be things like love jihad. And the border infiltration, which is people coming from Pakistan or Bangladesh, or especially Bangladesh, coming to India. So he is talking about these three factors, which is over and above the birth rate. Okay, chalo, let us talk about this. First and foremost is from 2014 it has been the Hindu government. It has been a Bharatiya Janata Party government. So this forced conversion, allurement, should it be growing or should it be coming down? If it is growing, then what Hindurashtra are you talking about? You can't even make people stop converting Hindus forcibly to Muslims. Fir kaun sa Hindurashtra? Fir what Hindu government? So that is a problem, isn't it? Second problem is also the same. You have a Hindu government in the center, isn't it? BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, the Hindu government. Now the Hindutva government in the center, with Hindutva government in the center, should the infiltration be less or should the infiltration be more? If the infiltration is more, then what Hindu government are you? Why couldn't you stop Bangladeshis from coming in? And if the infiltration is less, then good. Then why are you worried? Isn't it? It's a simple logic, right? Now my point number three is, let's talk about the growth rate of Muslims. This thing, I had done a complete separate editorial on this. If you get the time, do watch that editorial. I want to talk about this growth rate as a separate topic. You see, in 1951 to 1961, the overall growth rate in India was 21.6%, Hindu growth rate was 20.7%, Muslim growth rate was 32.7%. Okay, when it came to 1981-91, Hindu growth rate was 22%, Muslim growth rate was 32.9%. When it came to 2001 to 2011, Hindu growth rate is 16.7%, Muslim growth rate is 24.7%. Technically speaking, from 32.7%, the growth rate of Muslim has come down to 24.7%. It has not grown up. And the Hindu growth rate has come down from 20.7% to 16.7%. So they also have come down. The growth rate, Hindu growth rate has also come down. And the overall growth rate has also come down from 21% to 17%. But technically speaking, the difference, the imbalance is actually coming down other than going up. So the question of imbalance imploding and all, how does it arise? So there I have to beg to differ with Dr. Bhagwat. This imbalance technically I don't think does exist. So that's my point number two. My point number, and secondly, which I have always been saying, why Muslims were here before Mughals. Muslims were here during Mughals. And the last I checked, Hindus are the largest population in India. Hindus are dominating population in India. So what couldn't happen for last 1400 years, how is it going to happen now? What has changed so drastically that everything, all the apple cart will change and everything will go topsy-turvy? How is it all going to happen now? I couldn't understand this logic. So that's my point number 2. I will quickly go to point number 3, which is women empowerment. He says women empowerment, he says, so the work of the nation building is done by different sets of organizational units for men and women. But in all social work taken up by the Sangh, men and women work together. I still wonder why RSS doesn't take women. RSS has a different women for different unit for women, different unit for men. Why doesn't it have a common unit? Why doesn't it have a unisex organization? What is that RSS does that only male can do, and what is that RSS women wing does that only women can do? First of all, I think if you are talking about bringing up a balance in men and women and the working together, it should be done in your own organization. Charity begins at home, isn't it? So I think, while this concept is absolutely correct, but I think it should start with RSS in the first place. The last point I will make is what Mr. Bhagwat said is, he said that, it's a myth that knowing English is required for a good career. If we see all the top people in the country, almost 80% of them studied in their own mother tongue till matriculation. I agree to him. I agree to this point. Studying in one's own mother tongue is a very good thing because you tend to understand it faster. You tend to understand what you are studying. So that's a very good thing. But the part 2 of knowing English is not important, I don't agree to that. And I will tell you why. Few of the topmost corporate sector in this world is headed by Indians. Top corporate sectors. 25, 30 we can name right here. Google as an example. Top corporates are headed by Indians. Why do they choose Indians as CEOs? What is so special about Indians? Why not Chinese? Why not Germans? Why not French? Why Indians? One of the reasons why top corporates, huge conglomerates choose Indians is because over and above the fact that they are brilliant, they are good, they are fabulously educated, they can speak English, and that gives them an edge. I am not saying therefore Chinese don't go and take access to foreign companies. I don't go and say that. But I also say that when Chinese gets into a foreign company or gets into a huge conglomerate, they learn English. They have to learn English, take effort to learn English and then go there. Whereas most of our IITians and IIMs and most of our top Ivy League guys, they already know English. So the chances of them getting into a job anywhere in the world becomes easier, and growing in that job becomes easier. And that is why, we have, and we boast of it, and proudly so. I too, we boast of the fact that, bulk of the top corporates, Indians sit as CEOs. So, while I completely understand that, mother tongue is very important and we should learn our mother tongue, very correct. But English is not important and all, that point I do not agree. So this is broadly what Dr. Mohan Bhagwat had to say. Now the last concluding factor here is, you see, Dr. Mohan Bhagwat places their proposition normally in his speeches. To my mind, this time the proposition he placed in front of the people of India is that of Hindurashtra. Are we to believe that one can expect that India is going to go ahead with the concept of Hindurashtra after 2024 if BJP comes into power? This is the concept that one wonders. Is that what's going to happen? That's the point that I will conclude this highlights of Dr. Mohan Bhagwat's speech, and let's get into the next part of the editorial. So, the next part of my editorial. Sorry, this editorial is going to take a little more time than my usual editorial because I have a lot to talk to you today. Okay, now, yesterday we saw two gentlemen trying to consolidate, one gentleman, and build another. Consolidate their identity, secondly, build an identity. Uddhav Thackeray was trying to consolidate his identity. and say that, listen, I am the real Shivsena. And Eknath Shinde was trying to build his identity, saying that, you know what, not them, I am the real Shivsena. Okay. Now, let me tell you behind the scenes, what they said and all. I don't think both of them said anything much that would matter much to the nation per se, but I will tell you some very interesting highlights that I got to know from my reporters, my colleagues who are on the streets, on the field, right from 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, identifying people who are coming in from all over Maharashtra, talking to them, understanding with them, having lunch with them even, and figuring out what exactly happened. So I'm going to give you some of those feedback which will be interesting. Let's talk about Uddhav Thackeray. People came to Uddhav Thackeray expecting that Uddhav Thackeray is going to speak about Shivsena, about loyalty, about his father, and about his government. People came with that thought. People were very clear of what he is going to say. So it was no surprises. They didn't come to say, dekhte kya hota hai. It was not like that. People knew what they were coming to. A lot of people who came to Shivaji Park to see Uddhav Thackeray came with a firm resolve that we are going to stand by Uddhav Thackeray because we want to be seen as loyalists of Shivsena. So there was a mission behind people coming to watch Uddhav Thackeray. Another very interesting factor with Uddhav Thackeray is there was a lot of women who came to watch Uddhav Thackeray. So there was a huge presence of women. Men versus women, there was a huge presence of women in Uddhav Thackeray. That presence of women did not exist with Eknath Shinde's rally. Uddhav Thackeray, as expected, a lot of people before Uddhav Thackeray spoke about how people were disloyal, how they stabbed Shivsena in the back, and how calling names and all, which normally happens in Shivsena Shivaji Park rally, Dussehra Mela. This happens, and it happened this time also. Uddhav Thackeray restricted himself to calling names, though he did. It's not that he didn't, but he restricted that, and he spoke more about how he was unwell and how his government tried to do his best. But I should say I was a little disappointed in what he said. While he spoke about inflation, he spoke about price rise, and he spoke about the dollar value going up against the money value, though he spoke about the rupee value coming down and all of that he did. I am not disputing that. But the fact is, I expected much more. I expected him to talk more about what he delivered. What he delivered during COVID, what he delivered during 2.5 years, and what possibly the BJP government in the center and the Shinde government in the state is not delivering. I was hoping that he will talk about the Foxconn investment going to Gujarat. I thought he will speak more about that. But surprisingly, not much was spoken about it. So his speech was more so trying to consolidate. Why? That is why I said that is what he was there for. His speech was more so trying to consolidate the people who were with him there and trying to say how happy he was that the people who are there with him, and how proud he was to have those people with him, and the fact that he wanted to consolidate, saying that whoever are not with him there are people who ditched Shivsena, who are gaddars as he called them, and who went for the other speech of other Melava, which is in BKC. So this was more so what Shivsena's sum and substance was in that speech. Now let us get to Eknath Shinde before we try and make sense of all this. Eknath Shinde was not consolidating but trying to establish himself. He was being very, very defensive. He started when Uddhav Thackeray ended. Uddhav Thackeray came and fell at people. He literally bowed down to people. So did Eknath Shinde. I am told that Eknath Shinde had a list in his hand about what Uddhav Thackeray said, and he answered those. Some of the answers that he gave were good. People were convinced. And he had a 1 hour 40 minute speech, so the speech was, I think, slightly longish, but ठीक है, he answered what Uddhav Thackeray said, but most of his speech was not about what he is going to do as a chief minister. Most of his speech was not about what happens to the farmers of this state. Most of his speech was not about how he is going to get the youth, how is he going to get youth jobs. It's not about how Maharashtra is going to develop, or it's not about even how he lost Foxconn to Gujarat. It was not about that. It was more about how he was not a Gaddar. Why did he leave Uddhav Thackeray? How was he and his group victimized? This is what he was talking about. So he was defending himself more. This was the two different speeches. One trying to consolidate and one trying to defend himself and establish himself. Both were claiming to be the original Shivseniks. Okay. Now, like I told you, let me give you some insights on what we understood from ground. Uddhav Thackeray had lesser number of people than Eknath Shinde, clearly. But the people Uddhav Thackeray had believed in him, completely believed in the concept of Shivsena, completely believed in Balasaheb Thackeray, and completely 100% were his believers. They were his followers, so they were there to support him. Eknath Shinde had more people. Eknath Shinde's audience were divided in three. The first set of audience were 25 to 30% of people. Those large audience, 25 to 30% of people were there to listen to Eknath Shinde. They wanted to hear Eknath Shinde and they were supporting Eknath Shinde. So they wanted to listen to Eknath Shinde, 25 to 30% of people. So they came there for him. Another 30% of people who were there listening to Eknath Shinde were people who were not necessarily Eknath Shinde fans, but they were BJP fans. They were cut up with Sena because Sena ditched BJP and went with Mahavikas Aghadi. Those 30% people belong to that category. So they were not really for Eknath Shinde or against Eknath Shinde. They were against Uddhav Thackeray because Uddhav Thackeray ditched BJP. They were the Hindutva voters who said that I am here because Uddhav Thackeray ditched Hindutva and Eknath Shinde is with Hindutva. And the third 40% of audience who were there for Eknath Shinde was there to just listen to what he is saying, possibly not knowing what he is going to say, or possibly not very pro or against him, but fence-sitters. Fence-sitters. People who today are with him, but tomorrow one doesn't know. So I think the work cut out for both Mr. Uddhav Thackeray and Mr. Eknath Shinde is very clear. Uddhav Thackeray has to consolidate the people who are already with him, who I think are more or less consolidated, but then win over especially those 40% of people who were attending Eknath Shinde's rally yesterday and bring it to his side. And Eknath Shinde has to consolidate the people who had come to hear him out. Consolidate and lead them. I think that would be the job cut for these two leaders. That would be what these two leaders are going to do from here on, whatever they are called. If they are called Shivsena, whichever party is called Shivsena, whichever party is called something else, whichever party gets whatever symbol. But that should be what these two leaders should be doing from here on. So broadly, this was what a short analysis is of what happened in these three speeches yesterday, that is Dussehra day. Till I see you next time, that is day after tomorrow, Saturday at 10 p.m. Namaskar.
To know about the latest updates on our new news app, go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.